My best friend Alex, 32 male, and I, 32 male, have been friends since diapers. We're basically family. After college, we both moved back home to live at home and get our feet underneath us. Alex started dating Stella, 35, a lovely girl around 4.5 years ago, and from the get-go she seemed to politely dislike me. I don't know why. Oh well, c'est la vie. Alex and Stella moved across the country in 2021 after Stella earned a promotion at work. In 2022, Alex proposed, she said yes, and they set a wedding date for the end of September 2023. I got a save the date card at the beginning of the year. Based on my conversations with Alex, I assumed I would be in the wedding party, either as a groomsman or the best man. Still, I never received any official confirmation from either of them. A couple months before the wedding, I saw that invitations had gone out on social media and figured mine was en route. It never came. I waited a couple weeks, figured it might have just gotten lost in the mail before I checked in with him. I called Alex and had a brief conversation with him where he was clearly agitated and said he was dealing with a lot, would be incommunicado for the near future to direct any wedding-related questions to Stella. He'd call me when things cooled off. I called, texted and emailed Stella several times over the course of a week, but she didn't respond to any of them. At this point, I decided I wouldn't be attending the wedding and things were messed up between us. Yesterday, a little over 3 weeks after our last conversation, Alex DM'd asking if I was free to chat. I jumped at the opportunity to get some answers. After exchanging pleasantries, Alex jumped right into a spiel, saying that he knew I was super busy with work and dealing with a lot of personal stuff. Still, he'd love it if I could attend his wedding, even just as a guest, and he wanted to know if he could do anything to help make that happen. I just blurted out that I'd love to, but hadn't received an invitation. Alex stared blankly at me and said, "What?" I just kind of verbally vomited out that I hadn't received an invitation. That was the reason I called him a few weeks ago, that I contacted Stella about it but she never got back to me and left me on red, and that I'd no idea what he was talking about me dealing with too much to be involved in the wedding. After a very pregnant pause, he said he needed to go sort things out, and he called me when it was done. My phone has been blowing up since, with wedding attendees asking me what the heck happened and why the wedding might be off now. My girlfriend has reaffirmed to me that I did nothing wrong, but I've had people from all sides saying I stuck my nose where it didn't belong and caused a stink, which is really messing with my head. It was mostly extended family calling, and Alex's immediate family was just confused. Am I the idiot for telling my best friend why I wasn't attending his wedding? This mix-up wasn't an honest mistake. Look at what he said. These are the words of someone who's been lied to and sold a bill of goods about your attending the wedding. And what's this about Alex being in the process of inviting you? The bride and groom make the guest list together, send out invitations, and see how many can come. That's it. In your case, Alex wanted to invite you, but Stella said, "Oh, he's not sure he can come, he's swamped with work, etc., etc., when in reality, you weren't even invited. If everything's blowing up, it's because Alex discovered the truth about Stella, what she did and what she's really like. And people saying you stuck your nose where it didn't belong are just trying to cover for Stella. Not your fault and not the idiot. It also sounds like Alex had wanted him there as more than a guest, and because of Stella's lies, that didn't happen. The fact that the entire wedding might be called off makes me think Alex just put the pieces together, that Stella may have done this to more than one of his friends, and that's why he sounded so desperate when he reached out to OP, having no idea why so many of his other friends were too busy to attend his wedding. He also moved cross-country after her promotion. Can you imagine him going through the RSVPs and seeing gaps where his friends and family should be? How many of his family and friends got the save the dates, but no invite? This is a real red flag if she lies to him about who can come to their wedding. I will guarantee you that Stella lied to him. The wedding is off because he caught her in her lie. I'm a surgical fellow, kinda like a resident, and I work 7 a.m. whenever, sometimes earlier like 4 p.m, sometimes later like 7 p.m, but usually home between 5 and 7 p.m. She isn't working right now and she's just studying for her exam. I personally think to an excessive amount she's a type A and worried she'll fail when she's never failed an exam in her life. Our young toddler daughter attends daycare from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have an au pair to help out. Hours are set at my wife's discretion because I'm not the one responsible for the kid right now. So, since she's not working, she's been doing all the chores. When I get home, I just want to rest. And I figured she had all day with plenty of time off and hired help. She could help manage the household chores. She can't work for a few more weeks or months, unknown exactly when, due to licensing issues. She's threatened to move back and take our baby. There are some issues because I work every day and that would mean I would rarely get to see either of them, and I signed a lease for 3 adults and 3 bedrooms, which is more than my salary. Am I the idiot for making my unemployed wife do the chores and childcare? Edit, we are both residents. Her exam is a board exam for medicine, so it's one giant cumulative exam covering 4 years of medical school and 4 years of residency. She had to give up her $400,000 job, then some bonus to move, so being unemployed is due to my career move. She's contributing more than 50% of the family expenses and uses her savings. She pays for the daycare, au pair, and she has way more money than me. She says she's tired of being my mom and my servant. Because I am not the one responsible for the kid right now. Ha 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 ha. Sure man, when is it gonna be? After college? She gave up her lucrative job to move with you to yours, pays for all the childcare, does chores, financially contributes to the household, and is studying for a major exam. So everything in life is taken care of, and you dare to call her unemployed like she's a slacker? Really? You are the idiot, OP. You need to grovel so much your relationship is about to end otherwise. You are the idiot, especially about how blasé you are with all the sacrifices she's made for you. You intentionally used her unemployment status as an excuse to contribute nothing to childcare or housework. Still, you left the fact she pays 50% of the household expenses until the end. This means her studies are her job and she contributes equally. So why do you feel entitled to a free pass? You sound insufferable. So what exactly are you two contributing to the relationship? If she left you, she could make $400,000, pay for the daycare au pair easily and out of salary instead of savings, and have fewer chores to do. If the only benefit of being with you is that she loves you, at least be worthy of that love by helping with your own child. The way Adele's Divorce Babe Divorce immediately played in my mind reading this crap. LMFAO. My best friend Chris and I are expecting our first babies with our wives. My wife is 36-ish weeks and I believe Chris's wife Polly is around 28 weeks. Chris and I are very different in how we treat our wives and their pregnancies. Chris still has Polly do a lot, whereas I will take the weight off my wife in any possible way I can. Even small things, mainly because I feel utterly useless and I don't want my wife straining herself to do things I could easily do myself, while she's growing my baby and uncomfortable anyway. But I guess I messed up the other day. So Chris and Polly invited us out on their boat to go swimming and fishing. My wife was a bit uncomfortable because she's getting close to her due date and is just afraid of going into early labour, so her anxiety is a bit heavier than usual. Well, Chris kept asking Polly to get up and do crap for him, and I would go right behind her and say, "No, sit down, I've got it," and essentially did the same thing I would do with my wife. Well, there's a store along the lake that we stopped off at so I could grab some beers, and Polly asked me to grab her a few things. So I did, a mixture of snacks and drinks, like 4 or 5 items. When I got back to the boat, my wife looked in the bag I got and was immediately angry and didn't talk to anyone for easily an hour. I had no idea why she was so upset, so when we stopped, and Chris and Polly jumped in to swim, I asked what was wrong and she was like, "Pretty damn pathetic that you get her literally everything she asked for and you couldn't even get me the one thing I asked for." I told her I didn't hear her ask for anything and she said, "Yeah, because you were so busy doting on someone else's pregnant wife, you couldn't pay attention to what your own wife was saying." I honestly didn't hear her. But then Chris got back on the boat a bit later and looked at my wife and said, "Where's your drink?" My wife just glared at me. So apparently my buddy heard my wife, but I didn't. Which of course just adds fuel to my wife's anger because it looks really bad. I was right beside my wife and Chris was on the other side of the boat, so I should have heard her. Later on in the night, she told me that she's never been so uncomfortable in her life because Polly and Chris both noticed that I didn't get my wife the one thing she asked for after getting Polly everything she asked for, so it embarrassed her, and that she's not comfortable with me doting on Chris's wife at all, and that she doesn't want to hang out with them for a while because now she's insecure over this. I was just trying to be nice. Am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You were getting off the boat and took a grocery list for another woman. Even if you didn't hear your wife, an actual doting husband would say something like, "Hey babe, is there anything you want from the market?" So you didn't hear or ask her because you were so busy being a honey for another woman. Your wife should be enraged right now. You were so busy trying to show up your buddy for not meeting his responsibilities, you messed up and ignored your own responsibilities. This doesn't make sense. If you've been bending over backward to make your wife's life convenient for the past 30-ish weeks, then I doubt she'd react this strongly the one time you messed up and didn't listen. Have you asked your wife's perspective on how you've been during her pregnancy? It's possible you haven't been as helpful as you think. The way your wife reacted, I just can't imagine that this is the first time you made her feel that way. I just got a job offer in a different state. My husband works in a fly-in, fly-out camp, so it will not affect his work. However, my new job adds nearly $30,000 a year more to our budget. My in-laws live in a different state already and make an effort to see our kids. However, we currently live 8 blocks from my parents, and they are losing it. They say I'm a horrible son for moving their grandchildren away from them, that they have grandparents' rights and all that. I told them I'd be willing to change my family's plans so long as they made the difference between what I currently earn and my new job. I was even willing to go net. I wasn't asking them for my gross earnings, just the after-tax difference. They said expecting them to pay to see their grandchildren was ridiculous. I asked them if they thought my in-laws didn't pay for their flights when they visited. They said that's different. I don't think it is. Just because my parents can walk to my house, they think that seeing the kids isn't an effort for everyone else. My siblings have called me to say I'm an idiot for demanding money from our parents to see the children. I offered to let them pay me the money I'd be losing if I didn't take the new job. Then they figured out my parents didn't tell them the entire story. Now there's a big family fight because one has a job that may require him to move, and my brother will likely move after he completes his post-grad. I don't actually want my parents' money. I want them to understand the money they're asking me to give up. Not the idiot, and grandparents' rights are not a thing except in extreme situations. If a child is left orphaned and grandparents have a right to seek custody, they're free to come visit you whenever, I'm assuming, and if they care that much, why don't they move to your new town? I get that you're not actually asking them for money, but making them realize you cannot give up this job opportunity just so they can live close. Also, the fact they threaten the grandparents' rights crap makes them huge idiots. If they're willing to threaten to take children away from their parents simply because they don't get their way, then they shouldn't have access to those kids. It's not the 1950s anymore, and we don't have grandparents and parents and kids living in the same household or town anymore. With the modern economy, the nuclear family is now the norm and not the exception. You have a fantastic opportunity for a new job with much better pay. The only people who can make the decision on whether or not to pursue that opportunity are you and your spouse. If they can't understand that, they are selfishly expecting you to tailor your lives around them instead of doing what's best for you and your children. My sister Laurel, 30, had her second child a month ago. Her oldest is a young toddler. During Laurel's first pregnancy, she asked different family members, except me, if they were dying to know what she was calling her baby and whether they wanted to guess the name she'd chosen. One or two maybe gave a guess, but everyone told her they could wait until she and her husband were ready to announce. Her oldest, her son, she named Theodore. Her daughter is Mildred. During the second pregnancy, she asked the same questions, but still not to me. She got pretty much the same responses this time from those she asked as well. A few days ago, we were gathered for our brother's birthday and Laurel was asking if anyone had any thoughts on her kids' names. I didn't consider myself included in this because she didn't look at me but looked at everyone else. People were like, not really, and things were ever so slightly awkward. Laurel asked why nobody was excited to find out her kids' names and why nobody had a big reaction. Our brother said he guessed what her kids' names would be like because of how she named her dogs. Dorothy, Stanley and Eleanor, and he said she never hid the fact she likes really old names from anyone. Laurel was like, what does that mean? The really old names part. My brother shrugged. Nobody else answered. Laurel got very upset and said she'd expected a lot more excitement and enthusiasm for everyone except for me because I like weird trendy names. But she thought everyone else would say what a great taste she had in names. I told her nobody cares what she named her kids except for her. Nobody ever cares about what other people name their kids, unless it's really crazy or they really care about names and stuff. She said that was so rude of me, and I behaved like the bratty little sister who had no taste at all. Am I the idiot? I feel so bad for the little girl Mildred. She's probably going to be teased for her name. At least Theodore can go by Theo or Teddy. Not the idiot, she sounds like a snob. Also, this sounds like she's got a big main character complex. No wonder you got annoyed. You have to be pretty self-absorbed if you think that anyone will ponder your unborn child's name. You have to be up your own butt if you think any of these people would make a connection with the name you name your dogs to the name you'll choose for your child like it's some sort of dinner theatre mystery. You are self-absorbed enough to serve as your own tampon if you get upset that no one gives a crap. Someone needed to tell her eventually.